Hello, everyone. Welcome to Hebraic Awakening. Okay, let's just start off saying that I did a whole 25-minute video with no sound. Okay, so you know what? This probably ain't going to be 25 minutes. But we are here to talk about self sabotage. And as we are counting the Omar, right, we want to become aware of ourselves. We want to be present because we are counting down to revelation. So I thought this was a good time to talk about this important topic. So I'm not going to be heavy on the subject because we did this in our mental wellness group. So if you want to join our mental wellness group, please email me. I'm going to leave the email down below. Join our group. This is a safe space where we come together as women to discuss not just our issues, but we have challenges, we journal, and we're having our first retreat. All right. So if you want to join us in Myrtle Beach, North Carolina for the retreat, you have to participate in the mental wellness group because we want you to be mentally well so that we don't have to go off on you during the retreat. All right, so let's get to self sabotage. I'm just going to touch on it just a little bit because self sabotage is something that every African American person has experienced. We come from the transatlantic slave trade, most of us, and uh that leaves us with so much trauma that has been passed down. We are carrying trauma. Sometimes it's not even our own trauma, it is our ancestors' trauma. All right, so self-sabotage comes with us as we are awakening to different areas in our lives, and this keeps us from walking out Torah in the way that we should. Remember, Hamashiach said, I come to give you life and that more abundantly. Hamashiach is the living, breathing, walking Torah. So the Torah said, wait a minute, I come to give you life. I come to give you abundant life. And you out here living like this. So we want to get self-sabotage under control. So let's just get this generic definition of what it is. It's intentional behavior or unintentional behavior that hinders your progress, success, and goals, right? This could be conscious or unconscious behavior again, and this is a coping mechanism. So we're not going to talk about the conscious because we know when we awake, we know a lot about the conscious, but I just want to talk about the unconscious for a minute because what you have unconsciously learned affects your life, and you begin to walk out things that you not even realizing you walking out, and you'll say, well, I never learned that, but unconsciously you have. So let's talk about the unconscious mind, right? This is the part of the mind that stores automatic skills. So these skills are automatic. You don't really have to do anything. They're automatically being shaped as you go about your day. There are memories, they can be fantasies, dreams. This information can be registered in the unconscious, all right? Fleeting perceptions. Even if you're walking down the street and you happen to see something, maybe you see a couple fighting or arguing, whatever it is, you can see a child playing, jumping up and down, whatever the fleeting perception, you are taking that in to your unconscious because you're not really focusing on it. You're just looking, you're just looking. But fleeting perceptions can imprint on your mind. It is a bonding process. So even fleeting perceptions can bond to your mind. The power of the mind is just fascinating. Um, the unconscious mind has a deeper set of mental processes that are not readily available to the conscious mind. Learning, especially recognition of complex patterns, takes place outside of the conscious. So the way you learn, especially complex learning, takes place in the unconscious. Think about that for a moment. Judgment and decision making skills are also developed outside of the conscious mind. So, all of the information that your brain is taking in, and that's why we as parents need to understand that our children are watching what we do 90% of the time. And they listening to what we say 10% of the time. You learn by watching more than you learn by hearing. That's why the scriptures say, be doers of the Torah. That's going to sharpen your skills. It's going to help you to judge and it's going to help you to make decisions. But if you have trauma, guess what your judgment and decision making skills are? It's more important that the brain takes in information than how it receives the information. Again, so fleeting perceptions, things that you're not really recognizing and paying attention to, like focusing on, you could just be looking, not paying attention really, and you're still taking in information. You are still learning. So again, think about all that trauma that we have been through as a nation, and think about all the personal trauma that you have been through. This shapes your decision. This shapes how you have relationship. This shapes how you make judgments. It also shapes how you keep Torah. And that is something that we want to drive home. We were having a meeting this weekend talking about some events that, you know, are taking place and will take place. And that is the biggest thing. You have got to learn Torah. The problem is your trauma is keeping you from learning Torah. The way you learned in school probably was traumatic for many of us. A lot of us didn't have a really great education, okay? A lot of us, were in fight or flight survival mode growing up because maybe we grew up with one parent. And a lot of us just didn't have the attention that we needed when it came to learning in school. All right, so this is very important when it comes to Torah, and that's why I say a lot of people do not understand Torah because their trauma is keeping them from developing these complex learning skills that you need to rightly divide the word. All right, so it's very important. Let's see. You begin to imitate others based on how you are taking in information unconsciously. So when you are inside of these faith-based communities, you better watch who you are around. For example, if you are a man and you are not misogynistic, but you get inside this awakening and all you hear is misogynistic terms, and you begin to speak and behave in a very misogynistic way, you didn't even think about having a second wife until you got around these country Hebrews that don't even have 5 cents in their bank account and cannot understand Torah. But they're leading the way and teaching doctrines that don't even make any sense, they are very uneducated and unintelligent because they want to be that way, not because that is the way the Most High want them to be. And you begin to imitate them. So you go back home and you start telling your wife, I want a second wife. Why? Because this is what they say. You start imitating and behaving the way that community or organization behaves. You unconsciously are taking in all that information, even if you think you're not, because that's why you would go to your wife and ask for a second wife, even when before you came into this awakening, you wasn't even thinking about that. You see what I'm saying? So that's just one example that I like to hop on, right? But that's one example. That goes vice versa for women. You get inside this faith, you are a career orientated woman, you like to fix up and look nice, you may not be the best cook, whatever, but you get inside a faith-based community and they just change your whole thought process. Now you are a Stepford wife, right? Now you want to be Susie, homemaker, and that may not be you. It doesn't make you less feminine. It doesn't make you less of a wife. It means that you have a Torah or set of instructions specifically for you. But once you get inside over here, you start acting like you just an Amish woman, and you're not. They have their own community and their own set of values. Why are you dragging that mess over here? So let me get to the crux of what I want to talk about. So that's what the unconscious mind do. Now, fast forward, you are unconsciously taking in all of this information. You're inside of these communities that's helping you to reenact your trauma. Let's talk about that. You reenact this traumatic event that happened to you way back when, all because you don't want to talk about it. Your body, your feelings, your unconscious thoughts are looking for that, right? It's looking for that. And when you have relationships, you repeat it. So if you've been physically abused, you may end up in another physically abusive relationship throughout your life, or you choose people who emotionally abuse you, even if they don't physically put their hands on you. You're reenacting that. And it is because you have that locked up inside and you want to talk about it, but the way you're talking about it is through your relationships. The biggest signs of a person who self sabotages themselves is people who chronically procrastinate. I'm talking about chronic procrastination, and people who are perfectionists. Those two go hand in hand when you self sabotage. Why? Because you are supposed to be doing a certain thing, an assignment, a project, you have a deadline, and you end up either not doing it, or for those of you who love to wait till the last minute to do it, and you get this adrenaline rush from doing things at the last minute, you like chaos. You reenacting self sabotage right on yourself. You really thrive in chaos, and you cannot understand why. You actually have an adrenaline rush. It don't feel right unless I'm 2.5 hours away from the deadline. And then your work is not as good as it would have been if you started week one. And then you like, man, why didn't get that done? And then you go repeat it again and again and again. Perfectionism, you hate to get anything wrong. You want it to be absolutely perfect, so you end up not doing it at all. Self-sabotaging yourself, just sabotaging yourself all over the place. Compulsive behaviors will lead you to self-sabotage. Man, it's so much to this. And our community, we self-sabotage even when we start to walk in Torah. We sabotage ourselves because we are unconsciously doing it to ourselves because we have not healed from our trauma. And it's not going anywhere. Women will join the mental wellness group and start off, and then all of a sudden they dropping off. And what they don't understand is that this is a journey, and yes, you have periods of highs and lows, but when you completely drop off and you stop doing it and then you go right back into your old patterns, it's not going anywhere. Your life is not going to change. You can jump from group to group, community to community, but if you do not focus and do the work that you are instructed to do, because you have your own personal Torah with a set of instructions, because you come from generational curses, you come from different traumatic experiences, and we all have these unique experiences tailored to us that we must work on if it has been traumatic. You're not going to pray your way out of this. You're not going to read your scriptures and things just magically get better. You're going to have to do the work. The Most High is loving and kind and faithful and just and merciful. What He is not is a person that's going to take away your choice. So if you choose not to heal and you spend your whole life going through traumatic reenactments all through your life, it's your choice. But He will prefer you to be healed because there are blessings that is able to follow you and overtake you when you're healed. All right. So this is just a little bit about self-sabotage. So as we are commanded to show up to Shabbat and show up to the feast days, we are also commanded to get healed. Because Mashiach said, I've come to give you life and life more abundantly. He is the living, breathing Torah. He said, I, Torah, have come to give you life and life more abundantly. But you have to make the choice to heal so that as you awaken in different areas of your life, you are going to heal and attract that abundance and blessings that you so desire through prayer. And you wonder why things are not breaking through. It's because you're not healed and you cannot learn Torah and you cannot make the best decisions and your judgment is off. These are things that will keep you away from blessings and abundance because you keep going round and round and around and around in a circle around that mountain. And He wants you to come off from going around that mountain and enter into your personal promised land. All right. So I hope this bit of information has helped you. Until the next video, shalom, everyone.